And now, from Shenango Valley Studios, coming to you live, one of the most talked about shows in the Shenango Valley, because it's the only show in the Shenango Valley. Your host, Sean Zipai with The Zip Code.
Thank you, Andrew Gary. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Zip Code. Thank you all for being here. It's been a few minutes since we've had a Zip Code, so I am loving the opportunity tonight to bring back one of our guests, who is the only guest to ever appear on the Zip Code multiple times, the John Crispin. Let's get this guy on here. We got no time to lose, folks. No time to lose. He's on for the second time. He was a phenomenal guest the first time. There he is, folks.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing about me? You know, like, I clearly have nothing else going on.
Hey, you don't know how many viewers are going to watch this and go, you know, I think I've seen that guy recently on ESPN in between those huge pieces of plastic or huge pieces of glass or whatever they have between you and the play-by-play guy.
Now, you understand, I'm calling some of these games from my house, from this exact room right here. Like,
so what,
are you aware of this? Here, I'll look. We can do this. This is the internet, right? So, like, I have. Let me see if I can show. Like, I don't know if you can see the cameras. I got cameras and lights. I have all sorts of games going on. I've got my little. I don't know what I'm showing you here. Let me see. There's my whole setup here. I got a monitor. We're calling the games from here. Now, granted, I was at Bubbleville at Mohegan Sun, and I called like 12 games there. We were actually there. But we were tested every other day. It was, you know, a pretty clean situation. But this is just crazy stuff, man.
So before we dive into that, I just want to let everybody know, tonight on the show, John Crispin, he's an analyst for ESPN college basketball. And many of you know that he played for Penn State basketball, UCLA, played a little bit over in Europe. We're going to dive into a bunch of that stuff. If you recognize this guy, it's because he's been on the show before. Tonight, I am literally just kicking it with John Crispin. We're going no notes. We have no agenda.
I like it.
It just is what it is.
Yeah, look, everybody has like a rundown when you do shows, and you never follow it anyway. So what's the point of wasting all that time and saying we're going to talk about this, and then look, we're not going to get to anything you plan on anyway, so let's roll. Like, didn't you learn that last time? Like
well, what I learned from last time was, wow, like, it got deep, which was awesome because you're so candid. And I was like, you're right. 95% of the stuff that I had on the list, I never even asked. So here we go.
Yeah, this is the way it should be. Like I said, you're growing up in the world of broadcasting when you can put the notes aside and just trust your instincts, man. You're playing with feel right now. It's good. It's like a basketball term.
Exactly. You're like my broadcasting uncle, you know?
Yeah, look, whatever it takes, man. I'm just happy to be somehow in the family.
Well, what I realized too is I was listening to a podcast a couple weeks ago, and I was thinking to myself, I've been listening to these guys talk about they're music artists in Nashville, and I was like, I've been listening to these guys talk about their clothing and their mustaches for like 55 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, what am I listening to right now? But I was somewhat like enjoying it because they were just discussing random things, and then I was like, that needs to be. I mean, that's the Zip Code in a nutshell. I mean, let's pivot and let's just go for it.
But wouldn't you say now more so than ever? Because when you consider, like, we're not really social like we normally are. Like, even when I go call games, like, I'm not hanging out with the guys I'm working with. I usually, you know, you have breakfast or lunch with your team, with your crew, your producer, your director, your play-by-play, and you really hang out. You get that social outlet. And then you have a couple cocktails afterwards. And we don't have any of that. So I think, quite frankly, like, people just want to hang out and shoot it. That's it. Like, let's just see what happens.
I think you're right. Nice little basketball term there, pun intended. They want to shoot.
Yes, I do that.
Nice corny joke right off the top.
I'm in season. Give me a break.
So let's talk a little bit about basketball right now. So what the heck is going on in your world? You're saying you're shooting some of these games right from your office.
Yes. Yeah, I'm shooting some of these games from my office, and likely, like even when I do like a Super Tuesday ACC package, I'm probably going to be calling that from here because, we're dealing with each state's individual protocols and, regulations. I don't even know what you call it anymore in terms of whether you can have fans there, whether they're allowing anyone in the arena, how to separate us from players. Like if you do a game at Duke, we sit up in the rafters. So you can do that. But most games, we're sitting courtside. That's close to the players. So they found that it just doesn't make sense to risk traveling nonstop. And it probably is going to save a little bit of money in the end just to be able to call it from here, particularly when you consider like schedules change. Like I get emails probably 5-6 times a day based on the games that are canceled, postponed, or a new game that just got picked up. So if you're flying someplace and then the game gets canceled, you're stuck in that place until you're able to fly home. Whereas if you're home and you're calling the game from my office and they say your game's canceled, but we're going to move you on to this other game in the American League, you go, okay, great. You adapt, right? I basically feel like I'm a wide receiver in a no huddle offense. I just run to the line and they tell me where to go. And hopefully I can find a way to make sense. That's it.
So is ESPN paranoid at all about you and the technology and the internet connection, all that stuff in your office?
Yeah, a little bit. We went through all that. Like they went through my whole setup, my whole system to make sure, I don't even know the right terminology for this stuff. Like, I'm talking to these people in Bristol who are setting this stuff up, and I feel like an absolute idiot. And I was actually told that I wasn't that bad. So there must be bigger morons out there than me. So I got it all set up pretty good. We got a MacBook that was built for production, where I get all these different camera feeds. That goes into my big monitor that's on my desk, so I can get like an ISO monitor if I wanted to watch the post play. Or if I said, hey, let's break something down, can you pull it up in my ISO? I could be watching the game and also have that on here. So they've figured out ways to do this pretty well. So it's weird. Like, it's really strange to put the baby to bed. And I'm like, and there's no like, I'm actually saying like, actually put my child to bed with my wife and rock him, and then he goes to sleep, and then come downstairs and call like an ACC basketball game. It's just, and if you knew my town, man, here's the thing. Like, my town is 2 square miles, 9,000 people. It's kind of stuck in time, which I like. I think it's a good thing. Like, it's just, a little downtown area is what it is. You would never think that we were calling like a nationally televised major network game from my office here. But if you drive by, there'll be like a random TV light on at 9:00 at night. Like, what's this guy doing? Like, selling something? Like, it's really weird, but we're finding a way to make it work. So
anything crazy happened so far? Like your wife starts yelling or something, or the baby starts crying? I mean, anything weird happen yet?
No, the dogs are a concern. Like when I host radio shows, the dogs will get going. Like the mailman will come by. And look, I put a piece of paper outside that says, look, hosting a live radio show, national radio show, please don't knock on the door or ring the doorbell. People still do it. Like, they still do it. They don't care. Like, and my family's good. My brother, if my brother really wants something, he'll walk through the backyard and just come in, and he'll bypass the sign completely and just say, dude, you ought to tell those dogs to stop barking. It's like, well, you shouldn't have come in the door, man. Like, that would have helped things. But no, I haven't had anything yet. I've got doors in my office, so we're pretty safe. But the little man's starting to get mobile. He's like 7.5, almost 8 months old. So he's got a little car that he rides around. So it would be kind of funny if he popped in. We've seen those videos, right? The little kids popping in on like a conference call, a Zoom call, whatever it is. That would be funny. National television, maybe not so much, but whatever.
I mean, I would like to see that, but
yeah,
I'm speaking for myself.
It may like help my career. Like everybody does something on Twitter these days that like actually helps their career. And sometimes it's not a very good thing. You become infamous, right? But a lot of people have had weird things happen with a Zoom call, and they've become popular all of a sudden. It's like, congratulations, you showed up to the Zoom call, didn't close your camera, and you were in your boxers and no shirt on in the hotel. Like, but it actually helps them because people remember who they are now. Did you see that dude who showed up on the Zoom call with no shirt on? Yeah, like, I'm not going to do that. But if something happens, so be it. Like, just kind of roll.
Right. Because, I mean, just right now, you're the guy that was on the zip code. That's what people refer to you as.
I mean, that's all I'm known as. Like, I'm the repeat offender on the zip code show. Yes. Like, which, by the way, like, if you took any longer to get to your seat from, like, I don't know what you're doing back there. Like, are you waiting for the whole song to play out? Like, that's what I don't understand. Like, I'm like, is he joining us, or is he waiting to hit pause on the music, or like, what's going on? And by the way, is it an old school boombox? Are you playing a CD? Like, can we get an upgraded speaker system, Sheets, please?
So I'm going to give you a little backlot tour here. And
Okay.
so, by the way, when I say backlot tour, it's a funny story. First time I said that ever was to my cousin, and he goes, like, what's the show about? And I said, it's just a backlot tour. And he goes, what's a backlot tour? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah, it's French.
And I'm like, it's a French word, man. So finally,
Yeah.
I'm like, it's a behind the scenes look. Oh, you're going to, gotcha. Behind the scenes look of like the person's career. And I said, yeah, dude. So a backlot tour. Here we go.
Backlot tour.
I had a buddy of mine. He brought me over to his little studio in his house. Very, very talented musician. We recorded everything there, and he sent it to me. And so literally, I just have that through an email on my Mac. I just open it up, and it's a track fade. I click play on that email, and it's right under my phone, and it just fades out. And I usually wait till like the last 10 seconds because I think it's a sick track. So I just want to enjoy that, soak in the moment, get pumped up like I'm ready to walk through, a brick wall for my team before a game. And, they're calling my name, and there it is.
I mean, it sounds like you're playing it on a MacBook. So good to know you are. Have you heard of like Sonos or something? Like, like Google Mini would even be better. Like, I mean, it's something.
Well, here's the thing. When we, we take the zip code and we actually put it on some sort of podcast platform, instead of maybe me just uploading these onto YouTube, I might need to take we might need to take a step in the right direction there, but
got to hire a technical advisor for the show. Let's get on that.
So we're getting there, but I mean, I'm still waiting on, some big guests, maybe, I'm going to wait for your brother to hook me up with Shaq.
Yeah.
He comes on and
I bet that'll happen. You might want to keep me in the loop there because you'll get me 5 times before you get Shaq to answer Joe's phone call. So.
Somebody just said, John, your haircut is great. Looks very expensive. Thank you.
Actually, I cut it myself. Like I did. Through COVID, you start doing those things. You're like, I need a haircut. I look a little disheveled. So you cut your hair, and you're like, it's not that bad. And then you just get lazy. And it's not like lazy, like, oh, I don't feel like doing anything. It's that I just don't feel like going out. Like, I don't feel like parking the car, walking in. Like, I love my hairdresser. I don't know, what do you call someone? She's a hairdresser. Yeah, hairdresser, stylist. I don't know, whatever.
You probably have a stylist.
Yeah, we'll call her a stylist. It sounds cooler. But it's a lot easier just to fade it up. And the only area that is a problem is the back. And I don't see it anyway. So we're good.
So who cares?
And you know what? Today, with fashion being what it is, anything goes, man. I mean, look at yourself. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, you got a fedora and a ponytail. And either that's a gator or an actual turtleneck. I'm going with Dickie, but, is that a cousin Eddie Dickie? That'd be amazing if it was.
This is a turtleneck, John. This is a turtleneck.
I mean, those things still exist, don't they?
They exist. Now, I didn't even think about potentially the day we live in, just kind of going in somewhere and doing one of these.
You should.
I never even thought of that.
And that's what a turtleneck was originally designed for, is pandemics. So it's you finally have an opportunity to wear it.
Wow.
I think every Christmas photo from my childhood until, I don't know, I developed enough self-awareness to tell my mother to stop putting me in freaking turtlenecks. Every Christmas photo with like Santa Claus, like I'm wearing a turtleneck. And there's a phase along the way where I'm pretty sure I started wearing like my mother's turtlenecks. Like Mom, that's a green turtleneck. Like, why am I wearing that? Like, what are we thinking here? But hey, it looks good on you. It looks good
Well,
on you.
hey, I appreciate that. Remind me to get back to the fashion aspect in 1 second, because I want to ask you about the what you actually wear for when you commentate games. But a couple years ago, for some Christmas parties, my brother and I, you had an ugly sweater Christmas party.
Yeah.
Everybody was doing it. Oh, ugly sweater Christmas party. Well, I found a tub of some of my mother's old Christmas sweaters, and I was rocking this sweater. It was just it was a white sweater and just had a bunch of big poinsettias on it. That was it.
Oh yeah.
And I was thinking
yeah.
to myself the other day, that might just be something that I should wear in everyday life and not just an ugly sweater Christmas party.
I mean, I've seen some of your Instagram videos. I'm pretty sure you can get away with a Christmas sweater. Like, I'm pretty sure the last one I saw, you had all yellow on because you were trying to bring yellow into fashion whatever it is, Labor Day, which is just not going to happen. At least wait till Easter, brother. You had this all yellow outfit, and I think you were flipping a sign or something. Is that correct?
So since we last spoke,
yeah, you got a new job.
I work for an eyewear company called Eyes of Faith.
Okay.
Amazing eyewear company. They make frames. Unbelievable company. And so we're shooting some videos because yellow is one of the colors of the year for 2021 in the fashion world.
Of course it is.
And so,
Have you seen what the fashion world wears, by the way?
I have seen some of that stuff, and you are pretty crazy.
No one wears that crap. Like, who's watching that stuff going, I'm going to wear that to my next game? Like, no. It's the most ridiculous stuff in the world, and we celebrate it. Like, it's like, how about just something that looks good, And can we have a model that looks like they're alive, please? Like, sorry,
well, hopefully some of those companies are changing that. You are right. Hopefully some of those companies are changing
But it's not even the physique that you would think I'm referring to. It's the faces.
The stone cold face.
Stone cold, like something. Give me some. I wish one of them walked out and smiled. And then immediately got what are they going to get shot with a tranquilizer dart or something? Like just walk out and all of a sudden just stop and smile. Merry Christmas, something like.
One of them says something.
Yeah. Oh my God, the fashion world would be turned upside down. It's just such.
Hey, I think that may be a project for you and I, in the future. So a little entrepreneurial project. We're going to create a fashion show where people actually have fun at it.
Yeah. I would love for them to say exactly what they think about the stupid stuff they're wearing too. Like,
that would be epic.
We'll do a backlot tour of that, or what'd you call it? A backlot tour?
The backlot tour.
Yeah, well, that makes sense in the fashion world. So
true. So we found a sign of Eyes of Faith, and the owners of the company were like, we need to get a picture of you out there. And so I had a sign, and the owner was wearing gray because that was another color of the year for 2021, yellow and gray. But anyways, I'm spinning the sign, and after that, the rest is history. Like, Progressive is calling me, Liberty Tax, Little Caesars. They all want me to spin signs for them. My sign career is gonna be off the charts.
Yeah, you've found your calling.
I have found my calling. Hey, some of those videos of the guys spinning signs is pretty crazy.
You've got a ways to go.
I do. By the way, Sheets, you're awesome, and we love you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for my glass of water. Appreciate that.
Yeah, where's your Sheets? Where's your Sheets glass?
Unbelievable.
You're on the show.
On my third stop, I get one. I think that's what it was. Yeah.
Let's make that happen.
Yeah. Right now, I'm just repeat, but a regular is when you come in at least 3 times. So
absolutely. So let's talk about what you actually wear to call these games. Does anybody say, John, nah, sorry?
I'm pretty safe. I have this thing, I believe, and clearly you're in the same boat because you're still wearing turtlenecks. I believe in timeless. I do. I believe, I truly believe that you should dress in a way that is in some ways timeless. And I say that because I don't want 20 years from now to look back with my son and be watching something that I did and him be like, Dad, what in the world were you wearing? That's a plaid shirt with a striped tie and a pinstripe suit. What is happening there? Tell me, you see a lot of that. I know fashion favors the bold, but sometimes the bold should be punished for that. Like it's like one of those things where you see these outfits and then there'll be like a pocket square and glasses that aren't even needed. And you're just like, whoa, like just do your job well. So I feel like if I put too much into my outfit, I'm going to suck at what I do, because I'm going to be so focused on how I look. And I wear white shirts. I don't wear anything other than white shirts with my suits. Like for the most part, my ties, hopefully in 20 years, don't look ridiculous. But calling games at home, it's a little different because they want us to be more casual. They want it to feel like, hey, welcome into my home type of thing, where you kind of pan around and you show your office a little bit. I mean, pretty much everyone's office is just an expression of, I don't know what you would call it, self-glorification or, like I even have pictures of my brother up, but most of them are pretty much like the history of my successful career, right? Which pretty much peaked in high school, but it's okay. That's most offices. I don't want to show too much of that. So, I've kept it a little tight. Like I have my pictures behind me, I got some stuff on the wall. But it's like a normal office. But when I wear, it's really just like something that looks like I at least tried, like sweater with like a button up underneath that, right? I at least tried, pants optional, maybe sweats, but at least if I put jeans on, I'll take it a little bit more seriously. So half of what I wear now is more about making me feel like I'm calling a game and not making me feel like I just rolled out of bed and I'm just going to talk for 2 hours. So there is a professionalism to the attire, but at games, in studio, I keep it simple, man, timeless. 20 years from now, I want to look back and say, yeah, those pants fit. You know what I mean? Like you're at least leaving something for the imagination. There are dudes wearing stuff that you're just like, how did you squeeze in those things? Like you can't even walk in those skinnies. You know what I mean? Like,
hey, it's like me on the golf course, man. I mean, it's like, I got that Ricky Fowler look. I'm in the, the all orange, the all yellow, you feel good, you play good, you
Sure.
look good, you play good.
Everybody loves you too. Like,
hey, by the way, I just want to time out on the zip code. We had a celebrity guest join, Joe Crispin joined. He's watching. Joe, you're the man.
Oh no, he did not. Oh, great. He missed the whole he's going to set you up with Shaq thing though.
Wow, we can remind him later.
Yeah.
We'll
You're gonna have to do that one.
Yeah, I'll remind him. So, what? Anything crazy now with you calling games at home? Like, I mean, you still talk to the play-by-play guy a lot before the game, or is it pretty much you just jump on and here we go, let's roll?
Yeah, no, you do. You have to talk a lot. You really have. And talking to these guys is, look, it's great to kind of understand where you want to go in a game, what I'm seeing versus what he wants to talk about. Like play-by-play guys, their job is to call the action, maybe tell some stories, but it's really my job to get in the flow of the game. And ultimately, the play-by-play guy needs to kind of follow that. But what we need to learn is cadences, right? Like, when does he take a breath? And that tells me when he's going to stop talking. So if I'm not with him, like you and I are looking at each other right now, when I'm done talking. Whereas when you can't see each other, now we do have a feed, but it's a second delay, so it's really hard to tell. You have to listen for little things like breathing cadences that tell you he's about to finish what he's saying. So those little things, like you just have to spend time on the phone. But the other ones, like, producers, it's a big one. You really have to have a producer who understands where you're trying to go in the game, what I might be looking for. I talk to the directors so they know what camera angles I'm looking for, where I say, hey, look, the post play is going to be really good. So if we have an above the rim camera, I might want to see that in my ISO a little bit more. But then we talk to sports information directors and the coaches at least a day or two before the game. So you have a little bit of a feel for what they're thinking. And coaches, ironically enough, if you go to a shoot around and you talk to the coaches and there's anybody else around, you're not going to get straight answers. They're basically talking to media members because other people are hearing it. Whereas if it's just myself and the play-by-play guy talking to the coach, it's a great conversation. It's as if no one's around. They just tell you exactly what they think. And a lot of it's accompanied by like, well, don't say this on air. So anytime a coach says, don't say this on air, it's probably going to be good. You know what I mean? Like, so it's probably going to be true. Whereas most of the things coaches tell you, with mixed company around, it's basically what they want you to hear. And those conversations, while they're necessary, you don't really get much from it. So there could be a benefit to this where we actually get better information. And I also think coaches, they appreciate what we're doing because they don't get kids. They don't get recruits unless, we're broadcasting these games and giving these kids the exposure that they're looking for and allowing their parents to watch all their games. So I think each coach now looks at what we do a little bit differently, where they say, hey, we actually need you guys more than ever before because no one can come to our games. And if no one can come to our games, the narrative is being controlled by us. So when a coach says, this is what we want to do, we want to be able to get up and down the floor and we're going to shoot quickly, it doesn't mean that we think that's a bad shot. We just really want to get tempo going. That's a good thing to know, because when fans are watching, they're sitting there saying, these guys are taking terrible shots. What's going on? Well, the truth is, I can then say, hey, look, this is not a bad shot. This is what they're looking for, or that's not the shot that they're looking for. Here's where they can get it. Like, there's a lot of things that we can actually help coaches with this year that years past, I don't know if it was always there. Particularly when you're meeting with these coaches on site, people are setting up cameras. All our audio guys are there. There's a lot going on. It's more of a formality, whereas now I feel like it's an opportunity to market your program through us, which is kind of cool.
Who would you say is one of the most candid coaches in those talks with you guys?
Izzo's very candid with me, but you have to earn that. You have to earn that by developing a trust and respect type of relationship where obviously you give a coach a degree of trust because of what they've done in the game, and obviously they've earned that. You respect them, they trust you a little bit more, and then you don't burn them on air, they trust you even more. They will tell you exactly what they think. And Izzo's one of those guys, he can do it more so than other coaches because anything he's telling me, he's telling his players. Or he's already told them 50 times already. So it's no surprise. And he might say, like, hey, don't say it like this, but this is what is going on. And if you honor that, you'll get better information the next time. Like, Izzo's fantastic with it. Roy Williams is I think a lot of people would be surprised at North Carolina. He tells you straight up whatever he's thinking, but he's got that Southern drawl and he doesn't curse, so it never sounds bad. Like, he could say, we are absolutely, awful. We have been dadgummit, we've been horrendous. Like, he'll tell you exactly what he's thinking, and he's not afraid for you to go out and say, like, hey, Roy Williams said that they've been horrendous. Like, the guy's got all the job security in the world. That's probably the true answer as I continue to talk. The true answer is coaches with job security they'll shoot straight. It's the ones who aren't really sure whether they're going to have a job next year. They're selling you a lemon, man. Like, talk about like a bad car. Like, everything everything's sales, and you have to kind of sift through it and find the truth. But coaches with really that tenure, think about like a teacher with tenure. Well, coaches with tenure, they just let it fly.
Yeah, the thing is nowadays, and I don't know if this is just because of I'm a millennial or, after me, Generation Z, whatever, they kind of see through a lot of that BS. And I don't know why that's maybe specific to our generation. I don't know, but it's like we want something real now. And
yes.
I think that as far as recruiting goes, I think that's huge when a coach comes and sits next to, Mama and Papa Bear, and he says, hey, this is how it is. Your son's going to get a heck of an education, and this is how I'm going to treat him, and I'm going to discipline him if he needs to, blah, blah, blah. And the parents nowadays are like, oh, okay. It's like very interesting. And I think
until that kid doesn't play well in his first year and transfers. So
well,
that's the other
right about that.
That's the other that's the millennial characteristic right there, right?
You are right about that. The transfer culture now is absolutely insane. I guess on that topic, do you think the NCAA is going to just let people continue to transfer, or are they going to crack down eventually?
They've got to crack down at some point. Now, they are going to let, single-time transfers. So you can transfer once with no penalty. We'll call it a penalty. No sitting out. You can transfer once, no questions asked. So they're going to grant that. But it's like my brother and I talk about it. If he's there, he knows what I'm talking about. The NBA fixed the gather rule so that double step back is actually not a travel, even though it's totally a travel. The players still push the limit beyond whatever you say is okay. So whatever the NCAA says is okay, people are still going to push the limit, and then submit these waiver requests to say, hey, well, this happened at my school, and this guy said this in the locker room, and I didn't like it, so I'm going to transfer again. The limit will be pushed. So as much as the NCAA is saying, yeah, we're going to give you a one-time transfer, no questions asked, that's not the end of it, man. Until the NCAA, and I got to be careful how I say this look, this is the internet, right? We can pretty much say whatever. The NCAA has to grow a set. They have to grow a set, and they have to stand up for what they are. The NCAA makes $1 billion some odd dollars on the NCAA tournament. That money doesn't go into investors or stakeholders. No, it goes into the universities, right? It goes into kids whose sports don't make any money. So why do we apologize for what the NCAA is? Yeah, college basketball makes a ton of money. Doesn't mean we should adapt the rules for 0.5% of the population of student athletes on campus. So the NCAA just has to step up and say, look, here's the deal. We feel like the exposure that you get here is second to none. We feel like the coaching, the training, the healthcare, the strength and conditioning, your dietitian counseling, and everything else that you get. Oh, by the way, you fly charter jets, you stay in Ritz-Carltons, and you take a trip to Europe twice in your 4-year career. Now, we think that's pretty good. We think that's got crazy value. And there are a lot of kids that come into college that didn't have professional prospects, and now they've been in college and all of a sudden they do. That's what the NCAA is. Until the NCAA just steps up and says, we're not changing rules for one dude, Zion Williamson. We're not changing rules for 0.5% of the people that come into college basketball, because lo and behold, right now, Kentucky and Duke, who has the best players in the country coming into college, they stink. Do we really need those kids anyway? So the NCAA needs to start by just stepping up and saying, enough is enough. This is what we are. If you don't like it, don't come here. We have rules so everybody can abide by the rules. And some people can get away with going 85 and a 65. But if you get caught, there's going to be a problem. So if the NCAA just stepped up, put their foot down and said, we are what we are, take it or leave it, you'll find that there's going to be a period of time where some people say, forget it, I'm not going. But the game's going to live on. And quite frankly, it'll be even better because you can have kids that want to be there because they need something from college basketball. Until then, the NCAA is going to be forced to adapt rules like the transfer rules. They're going to have to constantly adapt their rules because people are angry on Twitter. Like, surprise, right?
Yeah. Now, is the NBA just kind of speaking about, people coming, being freshmen at Duke and, their talent and whatnot. Do you think the NBA in the next 2 or 3 years, are they going to allow people to come straight from high school?
They're going to have to because the NCAA is going to push it. The NCAA is sitting there saying, look, we're getting crushed for a rule that is not even our own. The rule where a kid has to come to school for a year, it's not even go to school. It's you have to be at least a year out of high school. So you have kids going to prep school. You have kids going overseas, playing in Australia and Lithuania and God knows where else, which is not really a great thing for kids going to a overseas situation where you're playing against grown men who play a different game than you've ever played. It's not really the best situation. College is the best situation. The NCAA is finally pushing the NBA to say, look, you guys have to change this rule. And they are supposed to. I think a lot of things got put on the back burner when COVID hit. But that will get changed, and you'll see kids, look, if they're ready, they'll go. But the NBA also loves the way the rule is right now because they don't take chances on kids out of high school. College basketball does. So college basketball either validates or proves this kid wrong that he's not that good. They look at college basketball and say, hey, great, you take the risk in taking this one-and-done kid. We get to see whether this kid's any good or not, and then we're not wasting a draft pick on an 18-year-old. So the NBA loves the way the rule is right now, and they won't change it until they have to. I just think the NCAA is able to apply enough pressure. And I also hope that people that lead the charge for paying players and changing all the rules of amateurism, stop with all that. Help change the NBA rule first so they have an outlet. If you don't want to come to college and, oh, by the way, not get paid, which no one's really struggling in college anymore, if you don't want to come to college and be an amateur athlete for at least a year, then go to the NBA. But there's not going to be any guarantees there either. There will be very few that have guarantees. Very few Zion Williamsons out there. Very few R.J. Barretts. Cade Cunningham's a kid right now. He went to Oklahoma State. He'd probably be a first-round draft pick because he's 6'8", 6'9", he's a point guard. There's very few of those kids. Duke and Kentucky right now, they're proving that young kids need work. So the NBA is looking at those guys saying, yeah, we would probably draft 9 of those freshmen between Kentucky and Duke. We'd probably draft 9 of those in the first round, if not early second round. So it's great that they went to college, and now we realize that kid's not a lottery pick. He might be a first rounder, but he sure isn't a lottery pick. We're not going to waste a lottery pick. So the NBA loves the rule right now until the NCAA and until a lot of these, again, like these are people I work with, until a lot of the talking heads steer the narrative differently. Because right now the narrative is, oh, this big bad wolf, the NCAA. Well, it's like, guys, the NCAA is not all that bad. Let's stop with this kind of political type push and just be realistic and say, this is an NBA rule that's causing a lot of problems. Fix that NBA rule and then address the issues with the NCAA, like name, image, and likeness, which is something that will change.
Yeah, I think that'll definitely change very soon. I mean, the other thing is I was thinking of by the time LeBron James's son graduates high school, I mean, that'll be very, very interesting to see by then. I mean, what is that 3 years? I mean, I would think by then maybe you could go straight to the NBA.
Yeah, the funny thing is no one's ever asked the question, is he really that good?
That's true.
Like,
I don't know.
No one's asked the question. I think that's the funniest thing about it. It's like, well, it's LeBron James' son. It's like, well, of course, he'll play with his dad. It's like, dude, like, it doesn't work that way. Like, I'm not saying it skips a generation, but like, to just say, hey, the kid just hit puberty, he's going to play with his dad in 3 years. It's like, wait a second, like, hold on, like, he's like scoring 6 points a game. Let's just see how this goes before we start saying he's a lottery pick. But I would say by then, yes, that has changed by then. And if there's anybody that can do it, it's King James.
Folks, that is breaking news on the zip code right there from John Crispin.
Yes.
Is LeBron James' son that good?
I mean, but seriously, we just don't know. Like,
that's a great point.
he's not as good as his dad was at that age. So no offense.
So we were talking. I mean, you're saying people go overseas and play. I mean, you got the Ball family. What's his name? The youngest guy, he chose to go overseas and play.
Yep, LaMelo.
Yeah. So so it's what's his name? LaMelo.
LaMelo.
And then what's the middle son's name?
LiAngelo. He's the forgotten one. I have a soft place in my heart for those guys. I was a middle child. Like I'm lucky enough to join you twice, but I literally have Big Brother watching over us right now. Like
I'm hoping I get a call right after this from your brother. Like, let me on the zip code again. I got to get on there again.
Yeah, he'll bring some quality to the program.
So, I mean, you played overseas, correct?
Yeah, short minute. Not like Joe had a real career. I was chasing identity. That's what I was doing.
Yeah. What is that experience like? I mean, I have no idea about European basketball, just what I see maybe in the Olympics.
It depends where you're at. Like if you're at a high level league in Spain or Italy, Greece, even like where Joe played in Ukraine or Turkey, these are like Euro league teams. The level of play is really high. The level of athleticism is where the game is so different. And because the athleticism is different, the game's played differently. It's more read and react. It's more feel. It's more shooting and spacing than the NBA game is. Now, the NBA game has rules that provide spacing on the floor, right? The athleticism is the biggest game changer. Now, there are EuroLeague teams that could beat NBA teams, not consistently because I think the athleticism just wins out. But there are some really high-level players over there. Now, the highest-level players obviously come here because the money here is so ridiculous. But you have serious pros over there, and you have to be able to play the game. You have to know the game, right? I think that's why Joe was so successful playing overseas is like he felt the game very well. He was able to read the game well, and in addition to reading the game, you got to read a new group of teammates. You got to read a new coach. You need to read a new arena, and everything's different every year. So you've got to be able to adapt every single year and deal with what you've got and find a way to win, because if you don't win, chances are you're not going to get paid. So there's a lot more to it. It's more of it feels more like a performance-based type of league where if you're winning, you're going to get paid and things are going to go well. if you're losing, everybody's looking around going, I don't even know if we're going to get a check this month. Like it's kind of cool like that. And in the day and age we're in right now, the NBA with, Giannis just signed a $228 million 5-year deal. I mean, extension, like, goodness gracious, man. Like, he's got like $240 million guaranteed. Like, that's just ridiculous. And how many of these dudes in baseball who sign a $300-400 million contract ever pan out? I mean, Carson Wentz here in Philadelphia, he just signs a massive extension, and now they want him on the bench. It's like, what are you doing? I actually like the way the game is over there. It feels more competitive, whereas I feel like the NBA game, as great as it is, look, it is second to none in the world in terms of the skill and athleticism. The way the game is played is incredible to watch. It's humbling in so many ways as someone who loves basketball. But somewhere along the line, it used to, I would say, let me go back. It used to be pride was greater than value. And that's where you had like the bad boys and Jordan and the Celtics and the Lakers. Like, pride was greater than value. Somewhere along the line, value got greater than pride. And now you see super teams. You see guys who are going, well, if I can't win with this guy, I'm going to cause enough of a stink that they trade me. I mean, it's drama. It's entertainment. It's not sport as much as it is entertainment nowadays. Because truth be told, no athletes make that much money. Entertainers make that much money. And I do feel like the game is lost a little bit because, again, value is greater than pride. And people who watch sports want more pride than anything else. And I think that's why football does so well. There's such a pride around your team. You see it on the football field. But in the NBA, it's like, it's not working out here, I'm going to go make a super team. Like, it's a strange thing. It's a strange thing.
Yeah, a couple months ago, I was watching, I think it was The Jump, and I posted that one video, actually, when your brother was clapping for Shaq when he went coast to coast. And so, but I think it may have been even that actual show, but Vince Carter was on there, Paul Pierce was on there, and they were talking about these huge extensions. And Paul Pierce was like, I got to be honest, guys. I mean, I'd give back a ring for that money. And I'm just like sitting there. I'm like, I mean, this is just the day and age we live in.
Yep.
It's like, he's saying it right then and there. And it's funny that, some people, fans are crying over their team losing. Yeah. And after the game, I mean, the losing team is smiling. I mean, you're right. It's you got Chad Johnson on his podcast and videos that he's posting saying, like, listen, I knew that I was building a brand for Chad Johnson. Like, I knew that it was an entertainment business. That is why I was doing what I was doing. I was having fun. I could care less about the team.
So self-consumption had nothing to do with that.
Well, probably a little bit of that too.
Yeah, we have a lot of that in this world. But no, it is true though. I mean, when you have that kind of value, it's really hard to be normal anymore. I think what I respect the most about guys at that level, and, whether you're playing overseas, whether you're playing in the NBA, to keep your body healthy and ready to play an 80-plus game season, there is no time off. It's a full-time job. Now, it's a high-paying full-time job. It's competitive because people want that job because of the value it has. But, guys at the top, man, I look at LeBron, I look at Tom Brady, and I go, how do they keep doing it? Like, where's the motivation? And sometimes the motivation, they don't want to admit this, it's just bottom line, it's insecurity, man. Like, look at LeBron's tweets. The guy refers to himself as the king, and no one asks, like, who does that? Like, who actually does that? Oh, a really insecure person. Like, and that does drive a lot of these guys. Like, Tom Brady, what moves him? What gets him out of bed? He's 43 years old. He's playing in the NFL. Like, what's wrong with you that you're still doing this? Like, that's kind of the way I think about it a lot of times, where I feel like these guys can't stop. Their identity's so wrapped up in it. There's, if I'm not playing at this high level, I'm nobody anymore. And that's, look, I get it. It's part of what makes these athletes great, just like an entertainer, like as like a movie star, as a performer. It's what makes you great, but it probably makes you a challenge as a human being.
Yeah. I think you're right. And I think a lot of athletes, look, I kicked the football in college at all, but I went to a small Division III school to do that. I never, through an injury, and then I was okay. And then I tried to walk on at Penn State. I never got to kick a football in my life at the collegiate level. But after that, I even dealt with that. You
Yeah.
know, like I mean, I think most athletes, when it's done, it's like, oh, you know what? Like that dream that I had of like when I was 4 years old and I thought I'd be a professional soccer player or kick in the NFL or kick D1, whatever that was, it never happened. You definitely go through that. I mean, for me, I relied on my faith through that, and my faith got real to me through that. But I mean, I think you're exactly right. Like, I mean, we're looking at the NBA Finals. Anthony Davis is holding the trophy. LeBron comes over. He's like, he finally gets his respect. And then like the lady puts the microphone in front of him, and he goes, and it's about time I get my respect. And I'm thinking to myself, what in the world?
Yeah.
Like, what? I mean, like, is it just you versus Jordan? Like, is that the only conversation that you want people to have? It's like, what do you mean it's about time you get your respect? I mean, I think you're getting some respect, man.
Yeah, you're being called the king. Let's leave it at that. Like, look, I agree. Look, we all go through it. You know, so much of our identity is what we do. You know what I mean? Like, even in my business right now, like, people I work with, you do this for 20 years, and all of a sudden you start to decline where you realize the events you're getting are less and less important to the network. That's a tough road, man. Like, because you realize it's a road out, and you're not sure what's left. You're not sure what else you can do. And I remember that time as a player where, like, I was at UCLA. I had 4 foot surgeries. I played for 2 different coaches. It wasn't going well. It was not exactly what I was hoping for. But I figured, you know what? I'm still going to be able to find a way to play overseas and just get the game back and see where it goes. I just lost it. I didn't care as much anymore. And I think part of it was I developed enough of a self-awareness through that where I was like, I'm actually not what I once was. I'm not as arrogant as I once was. My ego's not making as many decisions, like, or at least I'm aware of it. You know, I'm aware of my ego because my ego is the thing that took me to UCLA anyway. You know, people say, well, why'd you go to UCLA? I'm like, well, my ego made that decision. It's true. Like I say, like, is it a rational decision? No, I didn't even think about who I would be on that team. I just saw banners and UCLA, and it validated me. So my ego made that decision. If that's the case, man, I'm not alone. Like, a lot of people out there doing the same thing. And when it's taken away, it is really hard because it's not just the game that's taken away. It's the biggest piece of your identity. And, you know, there are players out there that, yes, they may have a strong faith, but your faith will be tested when your identity takes a hit. And that's what I look at. And I go, man, like, it's really hard for you to walk away, and you hanging on even longer shows me that there's an insecurity in there and a fear of losing the spotlight. And that's why a lot of people, they retire, they come into broadcasting. They don't realize that this is a job too, and you have to actually prep. You actually have to study. You have to watch games. You actually have to learn how to do this job well. They just can't leave the limelight because so much of their life has created this identity, and now we refer to it as a brand, right? It's like, you know, it's not even a brand anymore. It's who you are. Like, what I do is a part of who I am. Now, I hope that what I do is reflected in who I am. You know, like, how I do it is a reflection of me. But at the same time, like, I got to be careful not to get too far down that road where I become a persona, where all I am is 2 thumbs on Twitter, like, and whatever I create on there, like the hot take guy. Do you imagine the reporter that has to have the scoop every single day? Do you realize the torment in that? Like, we see it and we say, "Oh, look at him! He's got the scoop." Do you know what's going on behind the scenes? That the panic he has to get the scoop, to get it out first, and to make sure everybody gives him credit for it. Holy smokes, man! Like, that's exhausting. And truth be told, it's exhausting, and it's the dumbest thing in the world to even care about. Like, none of this matters. Like, we think this is so important. Like, none of this matters. Like, my job is so important. No, it's not. Like, it doesn't really matter. And for me, you know, and a lot of this is based on my own faith and my understanding of truth, and also like a humility. Now, humility doesn't mean I'm not confident. Like, I think my brother and I like to say humble arrogance, because the humility is that 30,000 feet up looking down going, we are just nothing but ants, man. We're not that big of a deal. But I also understand I'm good at what I do, and I need to respect the profession. So we kind of have that. It shows up as confidence and swagger and edge, but the reality is it's actually rooted in a deeper humility than anything else. And my confidence and fearlessness comes from humility, not arrogance. And I think that's the fine line that you kind of have to balance, where you do have to have confidence. You do have to have that swagger. And to a degree, you've got to have that competitive drive that is almost rooted in insecurity. And it's hard to balance all that stuff consciously and not turn into a monster, not be so driven towards one thing that you forget the how and the why is the most important thing. You know, the focus on the what is everything. Well, if you don't focus on the how and the why, the what is going to go away so quickly, and you're going to be a mess of a human being. So it is hard. I feel badly for so many of these guys that retire. They might be worth $500 million, but man, the shot to your system, it's a shock to your identity. It's a shock to your family that you're no longer who you thought you were this whole time, and you got to start something else. It's not easy. Now, I think they have the resources to overcome it, but resources can't fix everything, man.
Yeah, you're right about that. I want to say one more thing before we switch gears. We got to talk about a little golf. We have to do it on this show.
Oh, yeah.
But I do give a lot of respect to a lot of the big time guys, and I can't even name names right now, but big time guys that you kind of see that just fall off, and they don't just keep reaching for publicity and that stuff, and then eventually hear something about somebody doing good in their community or something. It's kind of just like, you know what, that's kind of cool. Like, you got to respect that guy.
Well, but it's funny that we got to respect that guy, but there's a part of me, it's like, why is it such a hard ask? Like, why is that the hardest thing in the world to do? Like it shouldn't be that hard. Like, we have a career, it goes up, you make vice president and president, and eventually you're going to be replaced. Like, we can't live forever, man. The only thing that will follow us is our legacy. And the legacy, like, my legacy is not what I do in broadcasting. Again, it's how and why I do it. And those
Right.
motivations should transcend the broadcasting, business. It should transcend that and be present in everything, consistent with everything I do. But, we celebrate, and I think that's where we also have to be careful. Like, we celebrate and honor the people that just do the simple things right? Like, we're like, wow, good for them. He just went away gracefully. He retired gracefully. He didn't have a giant send-off party. Like I practice by going to parties and just leaving without saying bye. I think that's my way of practicing for the end of my career, is to say hi to everybody. But the whole goodbye thing drives me nuts. Like, let's not make a big deal about anybody leaving. Just go. Like, it's all right. See ya. All right, we're out. Like, the career and the business should be the same way. It should just be like, guys, this has been fun. I won't be back next year.
Right.
Like,
on to the next thing.
I want to be the guy, like an old dog, right, that just goes off into the woods and just doesn't come back. Like, that's what I want to be. And I don't know. I actually think that's a good thing. People say that sounds morbid, but no, it's, just gracefully part ways.
The old Irish goodbye. So, folks, we got John Crispin on the show, college basketball, ESPN analyst. Hopefully next time he's on, it'll be his third time. We won't even say that anymore. You'll just know who he is. But
sure.
I got two more topics to discuss within the 7 minutes. And I refuse to go over an hour because last time it didn't save. And I was going to write to Mark Zuckerberg and I was going to figure that thing out. And guess what? It never happened. It's gone forever. So, yeah. But that's a great thing about live TV, though. You gotta be here.
Yes, you're right. It's a good sell there. It's a good sell.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you to Sheets. We love you, Sheets. Listen to this. You think DJ is just going to be a monster next year?
Hopefully.
I mean, all these guys are saying like, oh, well, he could play like that every week. It's like,
that's the hardest thing, is consistency. And it's not consistency based on ability. It's consistency based on noise. How do you manage the noise? That's it. That's the way I view it. I look at it like that. It's all about the noise. How do you handle the noise? That's all it is in this world, because there's a lot more noise today than there was 20 years ago. And kids, athletes, entertainers, performers, all defined by how you handle the noise. Are you still driven? Are you still motivated? Are you motivated to be better? Can you see flaws in yourself? Because there's a lot of dudes that don't see flaws in themselves and they never get better. So I'd say it's less about ability than anything else.
Yeah, I think it's the game between the ears. No doubt.
And how you block out Twitter Instagram, whatever it is. Not the zip code show on Instagram Live, but I don't want to block that out. But no, it's true. Like, how do you block that stuff out? Like when I was playing, man, like we had message boards, but like we never really were aware of it. But I know my mother would go on just to read stuff, and it was probably torment for her. Like it was probably so awful to hear people rant and rave about how bad we played, or and because it happened. And the very next game, we have a good game and everything's better, but it takes a toll on you. And you now have a generation of kids that grew up with that noise. They grew up with Twitter telling them who they are. They grew up with Instagram and the number of followers they have telling them their value. So how do you expect them not to lean heavily on that? I'm telling you, that's a challenge that coaches have that no one really understands, is how you manage that part of it to say, no, your value is this based on this, not all this other stuff that you think matters. It doesn't. It's hard.
Yeah, social media has created a monster. It absolutely has. And we can talk about that for 3 hours, and that might be on the next show. But let's talk about the last. Yeah, let's talk about the last thing I want to get to. Penn State. Let's say, Coach Franklin. What are you thinking?
Here's my thing. I think a lot of people want wins, and that's great. I want to feel inspired. Same way with basketball. My brother and I talk about this a lot. Like, is your play calling inspiring? No. Are you gutsy down the stretch? No. Like,
yes,
that's my issue. I don't care. Like, if you have that much money guaranteed and that massive of a buyout, you should be freaking fearless in your play calling. And you also have the blue and white of Penn State, right? You have, the white out of Beaver Stadium. You have so many things that before you it existed, and it's going to exist a long time after you. So how do you do it right now? I want to see fearlessness in play calling. Like, I don't want to see Ohio State from a couple years ago ever again. That I watched a team play not to lose, and that's what I see too much. So, again, should he be fired? No. Should someone sit him down and say, enough, like, let's go be the better team and let's go beat opponents? Let's not try not to lose. Let's go beat people. That's the adjustment.
I 100% agree, and I always talk to my brother about, back in the day when Mike McCarthy was with the Packers. You have Aaron Rodgers, who's one of the best quarterbacks to ever throw a pigskin,
Yep.
And with maybe 2.5 minutes left, you're running it 3 times just because you're playing the time game, and then you're punting, you're giving the other team a chance, and then the Packers would lose sometimes. And it's like, listen, you got to play aggressive. You're here to win. You're here to play. You're here to have fun, and I think that's what your brother said on the show too. Like, I want to recruit guys that can ball. That's what he would say. I want to ball. It's like,
look, you have to be unwilling to lose the game, but willing to be beaten.
Yep,
that's okay. I'm okay being beaten, but I'm not willing to lose. So, and there is a big difference. That could be show 3 too.
100%. Listen, we got like 30 seconds, and I do not want to lose this. So if you were wondering why we didn't do the rapid fire round, it was because the rapid fire round was on show 1.
Yeah.
So this is show 2. And this is officially the first guy that I think we can call a friend of the show, as Scott Van Pelt always says on his, because he came back twice.
I clearly have nothing better to do, so it's happy to be
here.
Hey,
if you want to see this guy, folks, you can see him being is it a color commentator?
Yeah, college basketball analyst.
Sam, listen to this. My brother, Zip Code Hall of Fame, John Crispin. Look at that. We'll get a picture of him right here, folks.
Please.
All right, John, thanks for being a friend of the show, folks. Thanks for watching, John. We'll talk to you soon, man. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Anytime.
All right, catch you later.